Hello and welcome to Ukraine Today. We're joined in the studio by Paul Gogo, a French journalist working for the newspaper Libération. We're going to be talking about the deadly clashes outside the parliament on August 31st and his experience while working in Donetsk for over 8 months. Thank you for joining me, Mr. Gogo.
Thank you for inviting me.
Terrible events happened beside the Verkhovna Rada. Can you talk about what you witnessed when you were there?
Yeah, it's first, it's a really terrible event because for me, parliament is a symbol of democracy. I came in front of a parliament just after the explosion of this bomb, and the ambulance were coming in front of this parliament, and they were coming to evacuate all these injured. It was a lot of injured. I saw a lot of blood everywhere on this place. The activists who were in this place didn't. They leave this place to take care of their injured, and so it was easier for me to count the policemen were injured than the activists were injured. But this activist, I can't talk about this man who threw this grenade, but what I saw is that a lot of people and most of people were there had the Svoboda flag. And for me, it was clear that it was nationalist demonstration. I want to notice that because I heard a lot of theory about what happened in front of parliament. And yeah, for me, it's clear that there's a nationalist problem, if I can call it like that, in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm. As I understand, you were with the French photographer who got hurt during the clashes.
Yes, it was so after the fight, the main fight, and the situation came back calm. Policemen and activists were singing the national anthem together, but then we learned that one policeman was dead, one National Guard was dead, and the situation came back tense. Some people began to fight in the street close to Parliament, and policemen tried to stop them. But they began to throw some rocks on the policemen, and my colleague Antoine Delaunay, French freelance photographer, was also here, and one of these rocks fell on his head. So we had to evacuate, and it was very well organized. Everybody was waiting for some injured people, and all ambulances were ready to go. All the hospitals of the city were ready to welcome people. And it was something, yes, really big and violent.
Now, if we can talk a little bit about the man who has been blamed for throwing the grenade. He is a former volunteer battalion soldier, and he served in Donetsk, fighting for the Ukrainian troops. Now, he was in the protest, which was largely led by the Ultranationalists Svoboda party. How do you think the Ukrainian government should deal with these soldiers? How do you think they should accommodate them in order to stop them from potentially joining these radical groups?
About taking care of people who come back from Donbass, because it could be a really big trauma for them to come back in Kiev, especially now that the situation is more and more calm, because when we are in Kiev, we can sometimes feel that there is no war. It's easy to forget the war in Kiev. And for people who come back from Donbass, it's a big gap between Donbass and Kiev when we come back.
Now, I understand you were working in Donetsk for over 8 months. Can you talk a little bit about your experience while being there?
Yes, it's a really interesting experience for me. It's my first conflict as a journalist. And I saw a situation evaluate from the first demonstration in the center of Donetsk to the war. The war was not expected for me, but I saw all the evolution of the situation, the way the separatists took the city. Most of the policemen collaborate with them to take the city in Donetsk. The way we came to the war, when Ukraine army tried to come into Donetsk, but was stopped in the Donetsk airport. Then the most difficult time of the war, because I know in Ukraine a lot of people can be angry against Donbass people, but nobody wanted to be in this situation, even people who were living in the center of Donetsk in the hardest time of the shelling, when a lot of bombs were falling on them. They were not happy at all to live there, and they never fight for that. At this point, that at this time of a conflict, a lot of civilians were saying to me, okay, we don't care to be in Ukraine, we don't care to be with the separatists, we don't care the side, we just want to stop the war. And then I saw this situation evaluate to a ceasefire, and it was really interesting too, because the separatists understood that they had to use the ceasefire to make their new country, self-proclaimed country, stronger. And so now, today, they fight with that. They have a cultural political, and sport political, and they have a lot of persons who are working, making this country, try to make this country real. And there's a big propaganda, communication, and a lot of events organized in Donetsk to make DPR and LPR exist.
Do you feel like there was a lot of anti-Ukrainian sentiment when you were in Donetsk?
Yes, but it's really interesting because I saw an evolution of feelings too of people. At first, yes, when I came, it was very difficult for me to work because someone who speaks English in the street of Donetsk, there is 1 year ago, was an American. I tried to explain to people I'm French, I just want to talk with you, I want to see how is the situation, but no, I was an American. And it was impossible to talk with people because the first speech they had was propaganda speech, Russian propaganda speech. So I was an Ukrainian Nazist, I was an American fascist. So it was very difficult to work. And then the situation came worse and worse. And people were more agreed to talk with us because the situation was really difficult for them. And it's at this time that they were saying, we don't care about separatists or Ukraine, we just want to stop the war. And then the fight stops, and with all this propaganda, I mean, a lot of people are watching now Novorossiya TV, Novorossiya Gazeta, things like that now. And with all this propaganda which is working in Donetsk now, a lot of people now support the separatists. But we should also keep in mind that some people who live in Donetsk still not support the separatists, but they don't have a choice to live in Donetsk.
And I'm afraid we'll have to end on that note. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for your invitation.
This has been Mr. Paul Gogo, a French journalist. I am Tamara Rosevan in Kiev for Ukraine Today.